Pranav, how are you? It's been such a long time, my brother.
Hey Mukund, great catching up with you. I'm great. I'm great. How are you doing?
And you are in Bellevue or are you in Redmond? Where are you right now?
I'm actually in Issaquah, close to Bellevue.
Very cool. I'm actually in this side of the water. You're on the Issaquah side. I'm on the Medina side. Very close, not too far away. But we've known each other for a long time. Thank you for taking the time to come to the podcast and give us the 2 minute background. You and I worked at Amazon, but we work at different times. We've known each other from the last 10 years back when you were at Make My Trip. I knew you through mutual friends as well. Give us the 2 minute career arc. Where did you go? Where did you start? How did you get to where you went to?
Yeah, no, it's been interesting. I started as a techie, did that for 7 years, then did a social media startup for 4 years, sold it off, then joined Make My Trip, which is India's largest travel company, built the mobile business for them, scaled it to surpass desktop between 2010 and 2015. Then I joined Amazon in India.
Yeah.
Uh, to scale up the seller side of the operations, and we scaled the marketplace to over 1 million plus sellers. And then I moved over here, and I've been focused on AI solutions for the global marketplace. And as a part of it, we basically focused on two things. One was how can we simplify listing a new product for sellers for Amazon, which requires a lot of inputs, and how can we simplify that using AI? And secondly was how do we simplify support for sellers, which requires a system that understands details across domains. So I can talk a little bit about either or both of those based on what you want me to get into.
So let's talk about Amazon. We've both been there. I worked on the algorithmic lending site for sellers, right? So we would get a lot of data from the seller portal. So just for context for the people listening, Amazon has vendors and Amazon has sellers. The sellers are a third-party business, or 3P as we call it. Now, when you started onboarding sellers, Pranav, they were not, I mean, right now it's like 2 million sellers, a lot of them from China, a lot of them from all over the world. They source their product from different places. They ship it to an Amazon fulfillment center, and then Amazon fulfills it from there. So there is a whole set of operations that goes in to help a seller. Walk through what is the pre-AI world of the seller operation, and then let's talk about what does AI change to make it either dramatically simpler, easier, whatever. Walk through the first part, which is pre-AI, pre-2022. How did the seller portal, seller world look like?
I'll actually pick up just one aspect of it. Like, let's start with how a seller journey starts. That
Yeah,
I want to register as a seller, I want to list my product and make it available for sale. Now, when you start listing a product on Amazon, since Amazon sells products across 2,500 different categories, you need to classify where does your product belong, and for each of those categories, there are a set of attributes and details that you need to fill in addition to describing your product, that allows Amazon to fit it in the right slot, show it to the right set of customers, associate it with the right set of products, etc. Depending on your product, it may take you several days to collect that information. And if you are selling across multiple countries, each country has their own way of identifying the products, and those details may take you a lot more longer to figure out to enable the same product across multiple countries.
yeah.
Now, one of the things that so this all used to be done either by the seller or by their own team in the pre-AI era, and depending on your product, it may take a few days to a couple of weeks as well before your product actually goes live and is ready for sale.
And in
Uh,
many cases, the seller is a single person, so this is a lot of work.
it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So when we started using Gen AI, we basically took the goal: how can we reduce their effort by 90%? And we started by basically with this hypothesis that, hey, there's a lot of information available publicly about pretty much every product.
Yeah.
What if you were to ask the seller to start by just uploading a photo of the product?
Yeah.
With that photo of the product, we would be able to identify what that product is, what its category is, what its color is, what its shape is, not specifically dimensions, but you can make a good guess on what the general dimensions of that kind of a product are in the
Right. Right.
market. And we would generate titles, we would generate the description, we would generate all these attributes, and we will show it back to the seller. Because eventually a seller needs to submit the listing and they need to verify all the details. But what it suddenly did was that it cut 95% of their effort right there. Because they would upload an image, they would see a ready-made listing right there, and they could edit. They could edit the title, they could add more details, remove some details, fix inaccuracies specifically in dimensions. And that was a game changer. Then we started getting really interesting requests from sellers that, hey, you know, I would like to describe this product in a way parents would purchase. So we said, okay, what if Gen AI can actually create multiple variations of titles and descriptions and let the seller choose? So there would be one that would just be a factual description of the product. Another one would be sort of a pitch that would appeal more to parents. Third would
Yeah.
be pitch that would appeal more to kids, and the seller can decide which one they like more and gravitate towards that
So
as the
depending
basic
on the
content.
audience, depending on the search, you're optimizing the listing, its title, its description, its images, even though it's the same product, to be
Yeah,
able to suit different needs.
exactly. Exactly. And the seller is in the driving seat because they can decide what's the best way they want to present their product, and all of it happens. Like they would be able to list their product in less than a day
Yeah.
uh, when they started using this
So
feature.
this reduces time by 90%. Instead of taking 10 days, now it is 1 day.
Yeah. So that was the one big thing that we did. Moving to the
Now,
sub,
let me ask you a couple of questions just about that, right?
yeah.
If you go through the seller process, there are some sellers who are simple. They have one product or 10 SKUs. SKUs is stock keeping unit. They have 10 SKUs. And do sellers keep changing products very frequently for them to get the benefit of new listings? Or is it that they're changing the listing type? Is it that they're changing the images? Or is it that they're changing products so frequently that this is very, very valuable?
Actually, it depends on the kind of seller. There are all kinds of sellers. There are sellers who will basically resell items and they'll keep bringing new items every day.
Okay.
And for them,
It's a huge
the
benefit.
it's a huge benefit. Then there are sellers who are brand owners who have created their own product. It's their own
Right.
brand.
Right.
They want to incrementally improve listings based on how they see feedback come from customers. And let's say there is a review from a customer that basically says that, hey, I couldn't figure out what is the size of this product, as an example. Then that might be a signal to them to say, okay, I need to go and add some more detail about this particular aspect in the listing description. And a lot of that feedback loop eventually is going to get automated with AI as well.
Right. So because they will keep the or AI can look at the new reviews and say, oh, okay, this information needs to be put in. It finds out what the description, dimensions are, and adds that of the listing as well.
Exactly.
Makes
In
it
fact, we
easier,
were
right?
building before I moved out of this project, we were actually building a management console where we said that, hey, we know your products, we know what customers are saying, so how can I generate recommendations for modifications that a seller should consider to improve their listing? And instead of you sitting and thinking about how do I actually go and make this listing better, you get few recommendations every day and you decide which ones appeal to you, and you can with one click enable them and make them
Now,
available.
this capability is so useful even in places like OfferUp and eBay, where people put new products, right? Unlike eBay has obviously merchant sellers, but a lot of eBay is consumers, right? C to C type of a model, where today I'm selling my pen because I no longer need it. Tomorrow I may be selling my AirPod. Day after tomorrow I may be selling my old laptop. So there, even that would be very, very useful where the seller is a casual seller, as opposed to in the seller of the Amazon realm where they tend to be professionals to a certain extent, right?
That is true. And the thing that surprised us most was, like, let's say this particular pen, the moment you give the image to the system,
Yeah.
it is able to identify so many details about it that even if it is your own branded pen, maybe it will get the brand wrong. But other than that, the dimensions, the color, the shape, how you describe it, what kind of a pen it is, all of those things will just capture the highest probability outcomes from the possible choices it sees, which was pretty amazing to us.
Let me ask you something just on this. I'm going to drill down a little bit. Previously, before AI, or the last 2 to 3 years, was anybody doing this as a human? And did AI now change their role? Or is it was not possible to do because humans cannot go to that level of detail and AI is facilitating this?
This was all actually being done by humans at multiple levels. So, first port of entry is the seller
Hmm.
who enters these details. Then let's say that it's a branded product. Like let's say people are selling Nike shoes.
Yeah,
Now, 10 sellers may describe the same shoe slightly differently. So there's a system that aggregates, takes all of those inputs and aggregates and figures out what's the description that shows to the customer. Then there used to be an internal team that would actually curate the listing and make sure that out of all of these inputs that are coming in and the system determined output, is that accurate? Is that is the grammar right? And then as that product gets sold in multiple countries, the translations, the pricing, all of those things need to be audited by a human team. With AI, all of that complexity actually goes away because you are able to, looking at one item, just generate a single source of truth. And if it is a branded item, you can also go to the brand's website and get their authentic version of how they describe the product, and use that as the single source of truth,
yeah.
in addition to whatever the seller is providing. So it's just fascinating what it can do.
So the broad use case in this case is, okay, we have a product, you take an image, you create the description, you create the product details, you create the product specifications. What about the other things such as images and pricing, which are the other two very important elements of describing the product on the PDP or
Yeah,
product
I
detail
think
page?
some of these are a little tricky. So, as an example, there is this fine line between helping the seller and encouraging abuse. Uh, at least as Amazon, we prefer the product images to be authentic and,
Sure.
shot by the seller. And therefore, we ask for product images instead of generating. But if, for example, there is a product that, like a lamp, that is better suited when displayed in a living room, it makes a lot of sense for AI to generate that living room structure and have the lamp placed in that context to be able to show to the customer how it will look in a room. So that is acceptable. So there are clear guidelines of what's acceptable, what's not, and the acceptable use of AI guidelines determine where you draw the line. But
Hmm.
theoretically, it is possible for AI, like in our internal experiments, I would say AI can do a really good job of generating images in different contexts, given one image of the product. And there are products where we would allow it, there are products where we won't.
Yeah, I think the examples I've heard consistently is in apparel side. Right? I used to talk to one of the VPs there, Sophie. She would tell me that lifestyle images are very important for consumers because it creates a better conversion on lifestyle images for apparel products. So if
Right.
you are selling yellow color product or if you're selling a pastel color product, you want to show it with a spring background. If you're selling a darker shade, you want to show it with a fall background, things like that, right? In some cases, it makes a lot more sense. And now it's just possible to do it, whereas previously you had to hire a photographer and do all the touch up and you had to do all of the Photoshop and all of that drama.
Oh, and I would hear so many horror stories of sellers basically saying, "Hey, I'm not finding a good photographer. That's hurting my sales." All of that is now gone because it's just so easy to superimpose these products and show them in a lifestyle way.
How are you using AI? Let's switch gears. How are you using AI on a daily basis? Talk. So you built products that help with AI. How are you using it? How are you using LLM and ChatGPT on a daily basis? What use cases, what problems does it solve for you that previously you couldn't solve before?
Actually, I've completely switched to an AI first person. And it's hard to believe because 6 months ago I couldn't think of it that way. But here I am. So let's say common use case. When I'm walking, I used to listen to audiobooks. Now I actually chat with Perplexity or Chat GPT and I just ask questions in the voice mode. It'll talk back to me. I'll ask follow-up questions, and sometimes I learn about history. Sometimes it's about a particular technology. Sometimes it is news. It just based on the state of mind. Those questions and conversations change. Sometimes it's just a venting out conversation that, hey, I had a bad conversation with this person.
So let me make sure I understand this right. You've got your phone, you've got your headset, and
Right.
you're just in voice mode with Perplexity or voice mode with ChatGPT, whatever the case is,
Yeah, and
and
I'm
you're having a
walking.
conversation, right?
Yeah,
Because one
and
of the use cases I also saw a lot of people were telling me was you take a news item, you put it into Google, I don't remember the name of the product, but it creates a podcast for you.
yeah, it does. It does. So that's the second one. So Notebook LM actually creates a podcast for you.
Correct, correct.
You pick up any news item, you put it over there. So I'm extensively using AI products for generating images, generating text, converting it from one form to the other, translations. All of those are just, deeply ingrained. If I'm these days, if I'm sending a mail, instead of writing a 1.5 page mail, I would much rather just tell ChatGPT that, hey, this is the context. Here is the key message I want to communicate. Can you draft a message for me? It'll do a nice job of creating a message with all the niceties at the beginning and at the end. And then I simply adjust it for tone or maybe change one statement or two. Most of the time, it just goes out of the box. My son is actually, he created a board game. Uh, a lot of the graphics he hand drew, but then polished with AI. So a lot of that content is AI generated. We are actually doing social media videos using Sora. We were earlier using Runway. Now we are using Sora and planning to switch to the Google Geo model and see how that changes
The different, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
videos. Yeah, and we are using it for a lot of Instagram updates. So all of that is like completely ingrained in our day-to-day life. And
It's amazing.
then I'm using Perplexity specifically for a lot of research. So
Okay.
yeah, when I need to draw parallels
Why do you
between,
use it over ChatGPT or Claude or anything like that? What's the unique thing about Perplexity? Why do you like Perplexity?
so I've generally seen like each of these LLMs has their own strengths. So ChatGPT is really good at writing candid stuff.
Mm.
Uh, Claude is really good at writing, good English. So if I'm writing a book, I would prefer to use Claude versus ChatGPT. The English it produces is really, really nice.
Yeah,
And then for research, I use Perplexity because I think Perplexity, I see it doing a really good job of synthesizing inputs in a real-time way from multiple sources
mm,
and
mm.
giving me information. That real-time aspect I don't see as pronounced in ChatGPT or Claude. And then I also use Grok sometimes because there are lots of conversations in Twitter which never make it to any article or any place. But those conversations are pretty meaningful. So, for example, if I see somebody recommend a stock on X, which I have not heard of before, then I'll just tap a button and say, Grok, tell me more about this. And it will give me a full history of, here is the name of the company, here is what it does, here is the investment thesis, all of it. And that is just super convenient because I don't really know how to analyze stocks.
Awesome. Pranav, this was a terrific conversation. I'm glad we got started. I'm sure we're going to ping you again in a few months or something like that, couple of months or so. Good luck with Ultramoms. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely fun ride. You've been at it for about a couple of years, is what you told me. But these things take time. So I imagine that you're having fun right now, but it's going to be even more fun as you go along. Thanks for the time. Thank you for being on the show. And it was good chatting with you just about AI in general.
Cool. Same here. Thanks for having me here.